Jackson at Song Mentor, and today's relaxed selection is a really cool tune by 10 Years After from 1971's album Space in Time. It was written by the lead guitar player Alvin Lee, and at the time this was a rare thing. It dominated both the AM and the FM song charts. Well, not charts on FM, but song play. It was just unusual because those were two sort of separate worlds back then. You either had a pop single on the AM charts or the FM guys played the heck out of your album. And this sort of crossed borders there. Just a great tune, a song about apathy and maybe wanting to do some changing, although the song suggests that the writer doesn't know how to change the world and some things that are wrong with it. He leaves it up to the listener and the audience. So it's really a call for action, I suppose. Here's 10 Years After, 1971. I'd love to change the world. All right, if you take away Alvin Lee's insane lead work in this song and just focus on what he does acoustically and how he wrote the song, the basic melody and chording is not too difficult at all. I think you're going to have some fun with this. We have only 5 chords to work with, and we're going to arpeggio them. And the 5 chords are an E minor. Now you may notice on some of these chords I don't necessarily have to play the whole chord because when I arpeggio them, I'm not picking all the way down to that high E string. But we'll show you the full chord in all cases anyway. An open G, an A minor, an open C chord, and a B7 chord. Okay, now, when we arpeggio these chords, so we're only playing strings 6, 5, 4, and 3 there of the E minor chord. The G chord, when we arpeggio, we never get down as far as the high E. So if you wanted to there, you could cheat and just play these 2 notes of a G chord. And if you don't remember from previous lessons, arpeggio simply means picking each note of the chord individually in a sequence. In this case, down and back up for the G. When we arpeggio the C chord, the C we have to play the full C because you do get down to that B string. If you leave that one out, you'll end up with a C major 7. You don't want that chord. And the B7 is another one. When we're arpeggioing the chords, you don't need to put that F sharp note in on the high E string. You can just play it like that. Okay, which is first finger, 1st fret, 4th string, 2nd finger, 2nd fret, 5th string, 3rd finger, 2nd fret, 3rd string. Like so. Later on when we get into the full strumming parts of the song, that's where you would probably add that back to the B7. You would add this back to the G chord. All right, let's tackle the intro and learn that arpeggio. All right, I'm going to show you close-up of the right hand for this in a moment, but let's show you, let's work through the entire arpeggioed section. And this repeats over and over in the song, so once you get this, you have it for the whole song. So we start with those 4 notes of the E minor chord. Then we go to a climb using our 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fingers up the E string from open to 1st to 2nd to 3rd. So 4 notes of the E minor, rest. But climbing all the way down and back up that G chord. And then to the A minor. Same thing, 4 notes. And that's the same thing I did on the E string, except this time I'm doing it on the A string. Open, 1, 2, 3. That takes me to the C chord. So we have 4 notes on the C. And then restart the sequence again. So again, slowly through it. All right, let's take a really close look at the right hand here. All right, and really that's part 1 of the 2 parts of this song. Part 1 is the chord sequence arpeggioed, and then part 2 is the chord sequence strummed, hard and aggressively. So practice that arpeggio several times. One thing you will notice is that in most cases when I'm on my way back up, and when you're on your way back up, you lead with an upstroke of the pick. What that does, and I don't always do it, but it's the most comfortable way to do it, because what it does is takes you back to the E string, gets you going in the right direction. So rather than picking, you can do that, but one of the subtleties of I think good playing here is to, and that takes you back in position to get down and attack that next chord. All right, let's move on to the strumming. And now the strumming is, as I said, sort of fast and furious. And it's mixed with a lot of frapping and palm muting, and then notice how I just take my fingers from the E minor chord and just kind of flatten them across the strings, not pushing hard so that they sound tones, but just so that I can add a percussive element to this. Okay, so let's break that down really slowly and look at the strumming. So we've got a down, up, down. And then a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Down, up, down, down, up, down. And that takes us back into the arpeggio. So that's what the song is. It's depending on the section of the song you're in, you're either going through a sequence of chords that are strummed, or you're going through. Alternating back and forth. So once you've mastered those 2 sections, let's move forward here and we'll do a playthrough of the intro and a verse. Well, before we get to that playthrough, I want to do a little mod here because I don't want to mislead you. So, and the bass does this later on, but when we get into that A minor arpeggio, it's actually led it leads with a G note. So it's like this. Hear that way that sort of attacks that G and then into the A. Nobody's going to shoot you if you don't attack that A minor chord with that G leading into it. But that is the correct way it's done, so I wanted to correct myself on that and try to play it properly for you from this point on.
Everywhere is freaks and harries, dykes and fairies. Tell me where is sanity? Tax the rich, feed the poor, till there are no rich no more.
All right, well, next we get to the chorus in the song, I'd Love to Change the World part. And there's a little one arpeggio sequence, bridges, between the end of the verse and the chorus, and then we play through the arpeggio 3 more times. So all together, we're going to play through this arpeggio 4 times, once on its own, and then 3 times with the chorus vocal in there. Here we go.
The world, but I don't know what to do, so I'll leave it up to you. Population keeps on breeding, nation bleeding, still more feeding economy.
All right, I just switched over to the electric for a minute here just to show you the bass for most of the lead work in the song, including the little lead bits he plays during the chorus. You know, I love to save the world. And that is all of that stuff, and he goes up here. It's all based on this scale, and I'll just try and give you a look at that. A little box there that goes from 12, 14, 12, 14 on the 4th and 3rd strings. Like that riff starts by bending 14 on the 3rd string. It's all played on 14 and 12 of 3 and 4. And then he heads up here. So there's some work on basically that's 17 and 15 on strings 1 and 2. So you work up there. And then again, some stuff that's sort of here. Kind of the Layla thing, which is working between 12 and 15 on 1 and 2. And then back down to that 12-14 thing. And then, of course, this riff is in there a few times. That classic little... old rock and roll riff, but he's working that into a lot of his solos. So again, I will go back now. Oops. I will go back now and put that little... I'll put that into the song so that you can hear it. Go back and listen to it. But that's where we're working, is around, in and around this part of the neck and in that area of scales. And so goes the pattern to this song. We finish that verse, we head into a second chorus. At the end of the second chorus, he screams, "Oh yeah!" And we get into 4 bars of guitar solo, which means we're going to play through that chord progression 4 times frantically as always. Okay, so 4 times through that. When the guitar solo finishes, he keeps playing exactly the same thing, but this time the vocal is no longer Lord pollution, there's no solution. He's not calm anymore. He's now screaming the lyric in the 3rd verse. So it's kind of like this.
Lord pollution, there's no solution. Institution, electrocution.
And so on. All right, let's talk about the ending of the song. All right, the ending of the song is essentially going to play through that arpeggioed section 3 times and then just end softly on the E minor chord. So the last time through. All right, so we'll do a playthrough of that ending. And again, I'll put a little bit of that guitar work in there based on that E scale.
I'd love to change the world, but I don't know what to do. So I'll leave it up to you.
All right, fine-tuning for I'd Love to Change the World. Well, we've got 2 distinct styles of play in this song. We've got arpeggio picking, which is, it takes practice to get it clean for one thing. One of the things that I'm a little bit guilty of at times is not fingering a note super cleanly, and you get a little bit of a, get a little bit of a muted sound to it. And you want these nice and clear. You want them nice and clear. And then the strumming technique involved in this song is very, very cool. We didn't spend much time on the lead work, but at least gave you a basis for which to go back and listen to what Alvin Lee's playing. And keep in mind, this is one of the great guitar players of his day. Especially speed-wise, you don't have to play at his speed to be effective. You can still play with a lot of feel and play those same scales and just not be quite as hell-bent on the speed at which he plays the riffs. Have fun with it and work within that framework, and you should be good. All right, 10 years after, Alvin Lee. I'd love to change the world. We'll see you next time on Song Mentor.